Most men have been taught that being available is a virtue, that answering fast means you care, that being there for everyone proves your worth. That belief is costing you everything. The moment you made yourself constantly reachable, you didn't become reliable. You became ordinary. You became something the world stopped noticing because you were always there, always in stock, always ready to be used. Today, I'm going to show you the psychological mechanism behind absence. Why the most respected, most feared, and most desired people in any room are always the hardest to reach. And what changes in how others treat you, think about you, and fear losing you the moment you disappear. This is not about being cold. This is not about playing games. This is about understanding the one rule that controls all human desire. What is always available has no value. What is rare becomes everything. We live in 2026. Your phone delivers you faster than a pizza. Messages arrive, and the world expects a response within minutes. And without realizing it, you trained everyone around you to believe that your attention is free. When you answer every message immediately, you signal one thing: I had nothing more important than you right now. And over time, that signal compresses your perceived value to zero. Psychologists call this the exposure effect in reverse. The more frequently something appears, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the more it fades into the background. You have seen this happen with people you once admired. The more available they made themselves, the less you thought about them. You were doing this to yourself every single day. You were never ignored because you weren't interesting enough. You were ignored because you were too available to be interesting. The high cost of total accessibility isn't a slow degradation. It's a complete collapse of your mystery, the one thing that kept others leaning towards you. Robert Cialdini documented it in Influence. Dan Ariely mapped it in behavioral economics. The principle is older than both of them, and it governs every human interaction you have ever had. Scarcity creates desire, always, without exception. When something becomes limited, suddenly, genuinely difficult to access, the human brain reframes it as valuable. This is not a choice. It is a neurological response. The brain activates the same circuits for scarce resources as it does for survival threats. It cannot help itself. The man who takes 3 days to reply is not rude. He is to the primitive architecture of the brain, a man with better things to occupy him. The woman who doesn't check her phone during a meeting is not distracted. She signals something more important holds her attention. What does this mean for you? It means your perceived status is not determined by what you say. It is determined by how difficult it is to reach you. The world does not value what is easy to find. It obsesses over what it cannot have. Here is what no one tells you about silence. When you go quiet, truly quiet, no reaction, no explanation, no signal, you do not create emptiness. You create pressure. The human mind cannot tolerate an unanswered question. When you stop responding, the other person's thoughts do not stop. They accelerate. They begin to fill the silence with their own projections, their own fears, their own interpretations. And almost always, the story they invent about you is larger, more powerful, and more threatening than anything you could have said. Negotiators know this. In high-stakes conversations, the first person to speak after a silence loses leverage. The non-response is not weakness. It is the most powerful move available. It transfers the psychological burden entirely to the other side. In interpersonal conflict, your silence does the same. When someone expects a reaction and receives nothing, they are left with themselves. And that is far more uncomfortable than anything you could deliver. Your absence doesn't make them forget you. It makes them unable to stop thinking about you. Strategic disappearance is not avoidance. The distinction is critical. Avoidance is fear-driven. You go quiet because you cannot face the situation. Strategic withdrawal is power-driven. You go quiet because you are building something, and that process demands your full attention. The difference is felt immediately by those around you. One disappearance creates pity. The other creates respect. The model to follow is what I call the darkroom effect. A photographer does not develop images in light. The most critical transformation happens in total darkness, isolated, protected from exposure, allowed to fully form before being seen. The same is true for you. When you retreat into deep work, into a period of deliberate self-improvement, into silence, you are not removing yourself from the world. You are preparing a version of yourself that the world is not yet ready to see. Your return becomes an event. Your presence becomes a statement. Practically, stop explaining when you go quiet. Disappear without apology. Let your output speak when you return. Never announce your silence in advance. Announcements destroy the power of the absence before it begins. Everything described in this video requires one thing you cannot fake: the internal strength to resist instant validation. The impulse to respond immediately, to be seen, to be acknowledged, to feel relevant, is one of the deepest urges the digital age has engineered into you. Every notification, every like, every message answered in seconds is a small surrender of sovereignty. Personal sovereignty means your attention belongs to you first, not to your phone, not to others' timelines, not to the anxiety of being seen as unresponsive. Your time, your attention, your presence. These are the most finite resources you possess. The man who treats them as finite is the man others begin to treat as rare. This is the deep truth that connects silence to respect. Boundaries are not rules you announce. They are behaviors that demonstrate what you value most. When you consistently value your own time over others' immediate access to you, you do not create conflict. You create gravity. You already know the men who command respect in every room. You have seen them. They do not chase. They do not over-explain. They do not make themselves available to everyone. They understand something most men spend their entire lives missing. Your presence only carries weight after you have proven you are willing to walk away. The world respects what it cannot own. Stay unavailable. The most dangerous man in the room is the one no one can predict, no one can reach, and no one can afford to lose.